guys. So today I have another quick exercise that I'm going to give you that I use as a progression from my Broken Jane Fonda exercise, which I've already posted. But to kind of recap, the reason, like the Broken Jane Fonda exercise is my preferred exercise for strengthening the glutes, like the glute med and the glute min on the side of our hip. The glute med and the glute min are used to stabilize the pelvis when we're walking or running or squatting or doing whatever, anything lower bodied. And oftentimes they can become weak or inactive for various reasons, and that can either cause like hip pain, low back pain, knee pain, or even actually ankle issues. So I give the Broken Jane Fonda out. I can't even tell you how many times a week I give out that exercise. But then after a certain point, of course, as particularly active people get stronger and better at the Broken Jane Fonda, they may still need to kind of like progress that exercise. There are a lot of people where if they're not super active or athletic, doing the Broken Jane Fonda, if they do that often enough, i.e. like 3 or 4 times a week at least, until their pains are resolved, or as a preventative measure against developing other pains, that may be all that person ever needs. But for people who are spending more time training or are training for specific sports or whatever, and they need something to get them just a little bit closer to a higher level of performance, then the next step that I often throw in there is this clamshell side plank. And what I also like about the clamshell side plank is that there are times where it's not just the glutes that are the issue. It can be sometimes an issue where someone's pain is caused because there's almost sort of like a miscoordination or a discoordination between using the glutes and using the obliques on the opposite side. The obliques being sort of like our core twisting muscles. And so what I like about this clamshell side plank is that it actually trains that. So I use it either as a progression from the Broken Jane Fondas, or I use it as its own exercise altogether to get the glutes on one side, let's say the glutes on my left, to work well with the obliques on my right when I'm running, for example, or something like that. So without further ado, the way I set up for this exercise is I set up for a clamshell exercise. And for those who haven't seen or done a clamshell before, I'm lying on my side and I want to prop myself up on my elbow. And then I'm keeping my heels together and then dropping them down pretty much right below my hips. So if I look straight down, my hips are my heels are more or less in line with my hips. And then from here, I'm going to squeeze my obliques. And what I mean by that is I'm going to think about trying to pull my hips up to my ribs to come up into a side plank. So now I can feel my obliques working here, and these obliques are going to kick in a little bit as well, but it's more focused on these guys. I'm also going to think about squeezing the glutes on my bottom hip to be able to hold myself up in this position. And then from there, I'm going to think about twisting this knee open. And then with that here, I can either just come back down and hold this side plank position and do like a set of 10 like so, or I can come back down between each rep and squeeze my core, bring my leg up like so, bring it down and come back down, and then that would be 1 rep. And that's gonna be completely up to you, depending on what you feel capable of doing. I find that the holding the side plank on this side while moving this leg, I tend to find that is a bit harder than the second version where I do the whole movement as a single rep each time, but play around with it. Either way, I would probably do 2 or 3 sets of 10. And if you want to do this as a warm-up before doing squats or lunges or anything with any kind of twisting motion, including running, if you want to do this as a warm-up for warm-up preventative exercise before doing any of those movements in a workout, by all means go ahead. If you've had a coach or a physio or a kin tell you that you should work or pay a little bit more attention to your glutes and your obliques, this is a great solution where you can kind of get 2 in 1 done. You've heard me say before in my Broken Jane Fonda video that I'm not a massive fan of the clamshell in general, and that's why I give the Broken Jane Fonda. But in this case, I don't mind starting with the clamshell because the person will have already done the Broken Jane Fondas. Usually when I give this exercise, they'll have already done the Broken Jane Fondas to already start strengthening the glute enough that I don't have to worry about the hip flexor jumping in to compensate like it does in a clamshell. I don't have to worry about it doing the same thing in this clamshell side plank because the glutes are already strong enough for that not to happen. And it's just a way to kind of get the glutes to work a little bit while we're getting the core to work, and then sort of marrying the two together. So I use this as an overall progression in sort of my glute strengthening approach. So it's kind of a temporary step before moving on to even harder stuff, which I will create a video for and post very shortly. So, hope that all makes sense. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below or to send me a DM.